The redesign team identified three main underlying problems. The first was that all patients go through the same process. Regardless of how sick they are, they all get triaged and seen and cared for in pretty much the same way. The second problem identified was a delay in workups, in that while it's often fairly obvious what the patient needs up front, none of that will really get started until they actually make it back into a space in the department. The third underlying problem was a lack of a true teamwork approach across all the different roles of people we have in the department. The redesign team came up with three main countermeasures to address the underlying problems identified. So the first was a split flow model, meaning that patients get cared for differently based on what they actually need. So low acuity patients, like fast track type patients, get cared for in a different area, and critically ill patients get cared for in a different area, and each area has different resources based on what they actually need to take care of those types of patients. The second plan was an enhanced triage process. This is to address that delayed workup issue. The idea is to expand and increase the use of nurse-initiated orders, to redesign the triage space, and change the staffing plan for our upfront process. The third plan was to work on having a more team-like approach in the different areas and to try and increase the interaction between staff of different roles on the care team. The first of these changes to go into effect is the new redesign of WestPod. And the idea behind the redesign of WestPod is that low acuity patients can really be moved through the department quickly by queuing them up in the WestPod waiting room, keeping them in treatment areas only when they really need to be evaluated or treated, expediting their x-rays, and using other areas of WestPod as results waiting rooms to try and keep treatment rooms open for new patients. So we'd be seeing different types of patients in WestPod than what we usually see. So really narrowing the focus to those patients that we could get in and out of the department really quickly. So here's an example of how the flow might work in WestPod. Okay, so this is the floor plan of WestPod. You'll notice the WestPod waiting room is the same. These are all the rooms, and then the idea is to use those corner rooms, what used to be procedure room and what used to be the eye room, as results waiting rooms for patients to sit in while they're awaiting their test to result. Okay, imagine two patients come into the WestPod waiting room. Light blue gets evaluated by the team in room 1. Turns out she has dysuria, so she's going to give a urine sample and then go wait in the results room for her results. Dark blue has ankle pain, so dark blue is going to go to room 6 and then go directly to the x-ray waiting room to wait for the x-ray to be done. Meanwhile, orange is going to go into room 10 so the team can talk to her, and dark blue is coming back from x-ray and will wait in the results waiting room until the x-ray is read. Well, it turns out there was straight up nothing wrong with the orange patient, so she was just discharged straight from room 10. So light blue's urine is back, so we pull her into room 5, we tell her she has a UTI, and we give her her discharge instructions and her prescription. And then the patients keep coming and we keep doing the same thing. Now here's a demonstration with actual real live patients.
Hi. Oh, hi, what brings you in today?
My wrist, it hurts.
What happened?
I smacked it on a tree when I was skiing blades.
Okay. Well, that's great.
When the patient arrives at triage, the greet nurse will briefly evaluate the patient. If they are WestPod appropriate, the greet nurse will do a screening pulse ox and heart rate, and then send the patient to WestPod.
All right, I think we're going to go to WestPod.
Hey, buddy, what happened?
I was skiing blades and I hit my arm and it hurts pretty bad.
Oh, man, where does it hurt?
The patient will be brought to a treatment room, and the doctor and nurse will evaluate the patient together when possible. This will help eliminate waste like taking multiple histories. This will also allow everyone to know the treatment plan upon leaving the room.
All right, let's get you an x-ray, okay?
Okay.
Patients needing x-rays will be immediately walked over to the x-ray waiting area after evaluations expedite the process. This will help avoid unnecessary delays waiting for x-ray to call for the patient. After the x-rays are done, the patient will come back to the results waiting room. They will wait for the x-ray to be reviewed and their workup to be completed.
Hey, man, let's go to a different room. We'll talk about your x-ray results, okay?
Okay.
All right, come.
When the doctor or nurse wants to share results, administer treatment, or perform a procedure, they will bring the patient back to the treatment room to complete the process.
So, it looks like the wrist is broken. All right, so we're going to get you in a splint, and then we'll get you home.
Okay.
All right?
Please Using treatment spaces only when we need them for evaluation or treatment helps to keep the rooms open as much as possible. That way, we can continue to see and treat patients while others are awaiting their results.
For patients arriving by ambulance, it'll be the flow nurse instead of the Greek nurse to make the decision of if they're West Pod appropriate.
Coming in, Douglas Fire here. Sore throat.
Okay, are the vital signs stable? Okay, you can go to West Pod.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
If all of the West Pod treatment spaces are actively being used, then we're going to start using the West Pod waiting room as sort of a next step to be seen area.
Hello, sir. Hello, Dr. Patel. This is Matt, your nurse. I'm going to come and examine you, okay? Why don't you come with us? We're going to go into a room. About time.
This makes it a little bit easier and a little bit faster to get the next patient in as soon as the team is ready to see them and a room is ready for them to be evaluated in.
So, coming up in West Pod, patients will no longer be owning their rooms.
It'll be a vertical flow method where people just keep moving through the department.
Docs and nurses will see the patients at the exact same time.
We're going to go live on August 2nd. Stay tuned for more updates.
Get excited!
Woo!